Good morning and welcome to Messiah Lutheran Church's daily devotions based on the lectionary. Today I'm going to be reading from the book of Jeremiah. Before I read it though, I want to tell you a little bit about who Jeremiah was. Jeremiah was a political and social revolutionary. Few people in the Bible led lives of such conflict. He was forever being thrown into jail, or tried for his life, or being forced to flee out of town. Time and time again, Jeremiah called on the Israelite people to repent, and time again, Jeremiah was ignored. For most of his life, Jeremiah had to deliver a really gloomy message, and nobody felt the weight of this more than he. In one verse, Jeremiah says, "Since my people are crushed, I am crushed. I mourn and horror grips me. Oh, that my head were a spring of water and my eyes a fountain of tears." So the spirit of this comes through so strongly in the whole book of Jeremiah that Jeremiah is known as the weeping prophet. Some of the most well-known passages in the book of Jeremiah are found in chapters 18 and 19, which tell of Jeremiah's visit to a potter's house. In chapter 18, Jeremiah watches this potter mold the clay. And in chapter 19, which I'm not going to read today, Jeremiah buys a jar from this potter, and then he smashes it in front of the leaders of Judah as a message from God. Today I'm going to read the whole chapter of chapter 18, and so sit down and get comfortable and buckle up because it's a wild reading. Here we go. God told Jeremiah, "Up on your feet, go to the potter's house. When you get there, I'll tell you what you have to say." So I went to the potter's house, and sure enough, the potter was there, working away at his wheel. Whenever the pot the potter was working on turned out badly, as sometimes happens when you are working with clay, the potter would simply start over and use the same clay to make another pot. Then God's message came to me. Can't I just do as the potter does, people of Israel? Watch this potter in the same way that this potter works his clay. I work on you, people of Israel. At any moment, I may decide to pull up a people or a country by their roots and get rid of them. But if they repent of their wicked lives, I will think twice and start over with them. At another time, I might decide to plant a people or country, but if they don't cooperate and won't listen to me, I will think again and forget the plans I had made for them. So tell the people of Judah and citizens of Jerusalem my message. Danger, I'm shaping doom against you, laying plans against you. Turn back from your doomed way of life. Straighten out your lives. Jeremiah says, but they'll just say, why should we? What's the point? We'll just live the way we've always lived, doom or no doom. God's message, ask around. Survey the godless nations. Has anyone heard the likes of this? Virgin Israel has become a slut. Does snow disappear from Lebanon's peaks? Do alpine streams run dry? But my people have left me to worship the big lie. They've gotten off track, the old, well-worn trail, and now bushwhack through underbrush in a tangle of roots and vines. Their land's going to end up a mess, a fool's memorial to be spit on. Travelers passing through will shake their heads in disbelief. I'll scatter my people before their enemies like autumn leaves in a high wind. On their day of doom, they'll stare at my back as I walk away, catching not so much as a glimpse of my face. Some of the people then said, "Come on, let's cook up a plot against Jeremiah. We'll still have the priests to teach us the law, wise counselors to give us advice, and prophets to tell us what God has to say. Come on, let's discredit Jeremiah so we don't have to put up with him any longer." And then I, Jeremiah, said to God, God, listen to me. Just listen to what my enemies are saying. Should I get paid evil for good? Because that's what they're doing. They've made plans to kill me. Remember all the times I've stood up for them before you, speaking up for them, trying to soften your anger. But enough. Let their children starve. Let them be massacred in battle. Let their wives be childless and widowed. Let their friends die and their proud young men be killed. Let cries of panic sound from their homes as you surprise them with war parties. They're all set to lynch me. The noose is practically around my neck. But you know all this, God. You know they're determined to kill me. Don't whitewash their crimes. Don't overlook a single sin. Round the bunch of them up before you and strike while the iron of your anger is hot. And here ends the reading. Lots of emotion in that, right? But here's where that emotion is coming from. The book of Jeremiah spans one of the most significant events in Israel's history, the destruction of Jerusalem and its temple and the exile of its leaders to Babylon. In the first half of the book, from which we just read, Jeremiah announces that God is furious with the people of Judah, in particular its leaders, because they're not following through on the covenant they made with God through Moses. They've not taken care of the poor. They've not taken care of the widows and the orphans and the outcasts. And they've not lived their lives according to the demands to worship God alone. For almost 100 years, the Babylonians threatened Judah. The people, though, were certain that God would take care of them. He'd take care of them. So then in 587 BC, the Babylonians conquered Judah. And 10 years later, Jerusalem lay in ruins. But in the midst of all that turmoil and despair, we see a radical turn in Jeremiah's message from one of doom and destruction to one of hope and promise. The people are suffering. Jerusalem is destroyed, their temple is in ruins, and Jeremiah doesn't heap more ministry on its people, but instead he offers them something to grasp, a hope in which they can cling. In fact, he takes such a dramatic turn that these later chapters in Jeremiah are called the Book of Consolation or the Book of Comfort. In other words, today's reading that I read to you, it's not the end of the story. Jeremiah preaches that the end marks a beginning. The Messiah is coming from the line of David to fulfill the ancient promise of salvation. No longer is Jeremiah preaching about people keeping up their end of the bargain, because there is no bargain. There's only grace. The kingdom is not dependent upon the goodness of the people, but upon the goodness and love of God. Listen to this reading and the change of tone. This is from Jeremiah 29, a well-known verse. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future. And then here's another reading from Jeremiah 33. Watch for this. The time is coming when I will keep the promise I made to the families of Israel and Judah. When that time comes, I will make a fresh and true shoot sprout from the David tree. He will run this country honestly and fairly. He will set things right. That's when Judah will be secure and Jerusalem will live in safety. The motto for the city will be, God has set things right for us. Israel waited for centuries for this branch off the tree of David. The Persians and then the Greeks and then the Romans all ruled over Israel. And they waited and they hoped and they waited and they hoped for their Messiah. Jeremiah's predictions of this first advent was made 600 years before it came to pass. I'm sure Israel thought the day would never come. But we all know that day did come. That prediction did come true. The fulfillment of God's promise of a Messiah was a baby born in Bethlehem. He came just as God promised. Now there's a lesson in this for us, a reminder that God will not forget us. God will not forget the promises God has made to us, because God always keeps God's promises. And a second reminder, Jeremiah's hope was in God. He instructed the captives in Babylon to look past the destruction and to look past all the problems and all the things that they saw and experienced in their lives, and to look that God was with them, to look to the fact that God was there, even in their struggle and despair. The light of God continued to shine no matter how dark their lives had become. What does that mean for us today? Well, in the midst of our own struggles and despair, in the midst of a world where we can be certain that there will be violence and danger and economic hardship and civil unrest and COVID-19, in the midst of our darkness and our fear and despair, God is with us. And the light of God continues to shine regardless of how dark our lives may seem. So keep looking for that light, Messiah, and keep clinging to that hope. Where we are today is not where we will always be. Amen.